Hey everybody, today we're going to show you a tutorial how to make a paper folding effect on text in Adobe Illustrator. First we're going to open up a file. It can be any size right here. I'm going to change it to inches, but it can be anything you would like. Change it to letter real quick. Change it back to CMYK because I was making something for web earlier. Name it whatever you would like. I'm going to name it folding paper tutorial. Okay. And now we have a blank canvas. And what first thing I'm going to do is fill the background with a color. Now, for the sake of this video, I make it red. You can make it anything you want. Zoom out a bit, make a square for the background. Fill it red. Now again, this can be applied to any kind of background. This is just a short version of making the paper fold. Now, put with whatever text you want. Right here, I'm just using a simple, really bold, blocky text just to have real defined edges. It's real hard to do with a more of a script type font. Just playing around with the letter spacing right here to spread them apart so you can really see the effects. Changing the font size a bit, make it bigger for you to see. And then the next step is I'm going to need to select the text and expand it so it's no longer text anymore. Then what you're going to want to do is you grab the pen tool and you draw diagonal lines over the areas of the text you want to be folded over. So for this video, I'm doing the top. You can do the bottom part of the letter, whatever part of the letter you want to actually do is completely fine. You can do all the corners of the letter. I'm just doing the top corners on most of them for the sake of this video. And again, I'm just using the pen tool just to draw a simple line over top of the letters to give a guideline to where it's going to fold. And then what you're going to want to do, you're going to want to make sure you got them where you want them. Hit shift and select the text, which should still be grouped in each individual line. And then you're going to look for the Pathfinder and I changed it to Essentials to get my Pathfinder real quick. And you're going to hit Divide. And what that does is create separate shapes for your different layers. So now where the folds were, they're actually their own separate shape. And what I have already done, I don't know if you noticed, I've had multiple layers. One's the original text, one's text shapes, and one's text fold. What I'm doing right here is selecting, I just ungrouped it, and I'm selecting the text shapes, the original text, and I'm going to bring that to the text shape layer. Just so we don't have to touch that right now, I'm going to lock it. and then I go up to where the folds are going to be, holding shift and selecting them, and I move them to the later text fold. It's always good to have layers to organize everything you're working with. Said I had something still on the artboard, so I didn't delete that layer just yet. And then from here, what you're going to want to do is, I'm just filling it with a color. I eventually, in a second here, turn it into a gradient. You're going to want to create a white to a light gray gradient to show some depth in the fold. You'll see what I'm talking about in a second. I just duplicated it just to have a backup of the folds if I needed to go back and redo it. Here's where I add the gradient that I go back and change later. And like I said, you're looking for a white, the same white, or whatever. You can use any color really. So for this, it's white. So you're going to want to go from white to a gray, like a light gray. At first, I make it a little dark here, just so I can see it, and then eventually I go back and make it a little bit lighter, so it's a little bit more realistic. And again, this is just a real quick tutorial for you guys to see. I've done this many times, so I just ran through it real quick. And here I'm just playing. When you would go to each individual little fold piece, that would fold, and you're going to want to change the gradient to either linear or radial, depending on what type of fold you have and the size of it. So it varies from different projects. I'm just playing around with it here. I think this is where I go in and actually change the colors. Yeah, here I'm about to go in and make the colors a little bit lighter. See what I'm doing here? I'm trying to change the opacity, but I forgot that I eventually realized that behind it is a solid gray color, so it's not doing anything, so I had to actually change the color values to lighten it up. And then I just use the eyedropper to change all of them to the one I've already lightened up. And as you can see, you can still somewhat see where the folds are, but when you actually start to fold them, it makes it a lot more realistic. And right here, what you're going to do is you can use a transform tool, but I find it a lot easier sometimes to just hold shift and turn it and then delete the backup one. Now, it doesn't always snap to where it's supposed to. Like, you want all the edges to align so they stay connected. It doesn't always do that. I don't know how I got lucky for this video and it happened, but we're going to go with it. Now, some of them, like this one, see, it didn't line up to it, so you just gotta slide it over and line it up to the anchor points on that W. And as you can see on the other letters already, it's already starting to take shape. Now that we have that, we're just going in and zoom in, make sure everything looks like it's lined up correctly. And as you can see again, like it already looks like it's somewhat folded. We're just going to make it a tad bit more realistic. And what you're going to want to do is go to warp and then arch, not arc, but arch. And here it could vary between horizontal and vertical. So you're going to want to play with that depending on what letter shape you're using. And mostly here, the horizontal, it changes it the way I want to. And you just adjust the levels so it looks like it's actually, you can see the paper is like bending a little bit. This just gives it that real fold type look, like it's actually really folding. And as you can see, that one I had to change the vertical because of the way the shape was. Some of them, it's just a bunch of playing with it to find out what works best for that letter. There we go. Do the Z real quick. Same thing. Now, as you can see, it's taking a lot more shape now with the folds. Now I'm just going to hit shift and select all the little folds, and I'm going to expand those again to make them their own little path. And next thing I go in and do is add a drop shadow to each one and hit preview so I can see what it's going to look like. And here it might be easier to make your document in pixels so you have more control over this actual drop shadow, because I was used to working in pixels, and for this I made it inches, and it's a little bit harder to adjust when you're working in bigger increments like that. So right here I'm just playing with it because I forgot I was in inches, so I had to readjust. And you just want to play with the X and Y values to make the shadow look like it's being placed in where the shadow would be below the fold. And again, all these settings, they're not concrete. You can edit them to your liking or to your specific project you're working on. And I'm just going to keep going through and see. Now look at the N and E. Like, they already are looking a lot better and more realistic with an arched fold and the drop shadow behind it. It's already taking shape. Still just playing with the settings here. There we go. Now, as you can see, that looks a whole lot better from where we originally started. And now I'm going to unlock the text layer again, or the text shape layer, and select all the text shapes in the back. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a very light stroke of gray, similar to the ones in the gradients for the folded pieces. And I'm going to make sure that is in the inside, and it creates a real subtle depth inside of the letter. Now you can outline it whenever you want, however you like, depending on your needs, but that's just my preference to make a light gray interior stroke. Here I'm adding a gradient to show more lighting on the text. I'm going from bottom to top, from darker to lighter, so it really makes them shadows stick out more. Then I'm going to select them again, and for one final effect, I'm adding a drop shadow and playing with that, and you can adjust that to how you want. And when you set this on a white background, it really stands out. And again, you can change the background to whatever you prefer. There you have it. Like I said, you can change the background, you can edit it how you like, have folds on every corner if you would like. It's all editable. And being it's an Illustrator, it's a vector, so it can be scaled down and up without changing anything, and it's a real cool text effect that's real quick and easy to do for anybody really. Hope you guys enjoyed.